I've been riding bikes for around 30 years now, but despite that, incredibly, I've never ridden cyclocross. But things are going to change because in just 6 weeks' time, I'm going to be entering my first ever cyclocross race. Engaging the help of Tom and Simon, both very good cyclocross riders in their day, to help me along the way. Si, I've had pretty much the same road position for the last 4 decades, so what do I need to look for on a cross bike? What's different?
Okay, so essentially you want to take your road position, you want to bring it up by 1 to 2 centimetres, then you want to bring it back by 1 centimetre. So that's all in your handlebar adjustment there. So it gives you a little bit more control, and essentially it's just a little bit better for when you're tackling technical terrain. So that's the first thing. In terms of your saddle height, the only difference you'll make is if the stack height on your pedals is slightly different. So obviously you're running mountain bike shoes and double-sided pedals. If it ends up being sort of a few mil higher, then you adjust it, but that's being pretty picky, really. Now, the one thing I'm interested in, Matt, have you made the ultimate rookie error of tyre pressure?
Well, I normally run about 105 on the road, so I've stuck in 100 for today.
Have you really?
No, but there's 60 in there, mate.
60, okay, cool. Well, you probably want to drop a little bit less, so maybe about 40 PSI for normal kind of riding conditions. Racing is totally different, but for just cruising around, you want about 40 PSI.
So, Si, we're stood here in a beautiful park. I mean, if you've never ridden cross before, is this the best place to start?
Yeah, I think where you ride your cross bike is really, really important in order to get the actual most enjoyment out of it. The first thing to remember is it's not a mountain bike, so you don't want to ride stuff that's too gnarly. I mean, you can get down there on a cross bike, but the question is it going to be fun? If it's too rocky or it's too rooty, the risk of pinch flats is so high that you have to put 80 PSI in your tyres to avoid that, and then the bike rides like crap anyway. It's really harsh. So I'd look for stuff that perhaps is a little bit boring on a mountain bike, but it's probably going to be great fun on a cross bike. So, like you say, here we are in a park, it's grassy, it's open, there's no rocks, there's no roots, and that's kind of cool. If you are going to ride in the woods, which is great, then you want to find trails that aren't too rocky and rooty. Again, just avoiding pinch flats and stuff like that.
And what about riding on the road on your cross bike?
Absolutely. Cross bikes are great on the road. You know, they are slightly slower than a road bike, but they are still pretty darn quick. My favourite type of cross riding, if I'm not racing, is something that mixes both road and trail. It freshens up, you know, boring road rides because you can dive off and take new routes and things like that. Something with a 50-50 split, road and trail, is pretty much my favourite type of riding at the moment, actually.
So, Si, my issue having ridden on the road for so long is that my technique is specifically designed, I guess, to keep me riding on smooth tarmac, you know, and the thought of actually sliding and then staying upright at the same time is completely alien to me, let alone all the bumps. I mean, surely there's a technique to sort of help take the sting out of things.
Yeah, there is. I reckon the first thing to do is to introduce the idea of standing on the pedals, out the saddle, to increase control over bumpy and technical terrain. So the first thing to do, I guess, is to say, hold on to the drops. Okay. You get best braking here, obviously, and best control, just like you do on the road bike. Then you want to have your pedals horizontal and then stand out the seat. That means that you can absorb all the bumps with your arms and legs, so it isolates your torso from the ground, essentially, is in the best possible way. And then also you're free to move your body weight forward or backward depending on whether you're going on flat ground or downhill or whatever else. And then you can adopt that anytime you don't need to pedal and you are tackling bumpy and technical terrain. It's the fastest way to get across it. Most of the time in cross though, you're going to have to be in the saddle. That's in order to keep pedaling and maintaining traction as well. The ultimate aim is to keep your head and your shoulders still and everything else moving underneath you.
So what's the best way to do exactly that then?
Okay, so you want to have your weight a little bit further back in the saddle than normal. You want to drop your cadence a bit compared to what you would on the road.
Right.
And that gives you something to push against and also helps you unweight the saddle a little bit. It helps your bike move around underneath you. You want to hold the bars on the hoods so you can still brake and shift. Okay. And you want to hold it loosely but firmly, if that's not an oxymoron.
Yep.
I find that if I hold them firmly, it sort of actually dampens a little bit of the sort of vibrations from the bike and just helps it come under a bit more control. The most important thing is to keep your arms slightly bent, and that obviously means that you can absorb shock, but also you can extend them as well so that the bike can follow into little ruts and holes and things, and that helps to maintain traction. Absorbing shocks isn't the same as being floppy though. You need to have a bit of tension in your arms and your legs so that you can actually keep the bike under a bit of control. Just by being floppy, it lets the bike do what it wants, and that's not necessarily the best thing.
Like a shock absorber almost. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So this is pretty much the best position for 90% of cross riding, and particularly if you're going to be hitting something like a patch of mud or a patch of sand, it's the best way of keeping the bike under control. Now, another thing you don't have to think about on the road too much is maintaining traction while climbing. And because cross is so explosive, a lot of the time you'll be climbing out the saddle. But as soon as it gets remotely slippery, you'll be struggling to maintain traction. So as a minimum, you need to adjust your technique by moving backwards slightly. And then ideally, you'll also be in the saddle. And in extreme situations, you might need to bounce in the saddle or throw your bike just to get over that last little bit.
Well, that's the basic skills done. Looks like I better get out and do some training. And make sure you join us next week when they're going to be showing you how to dismount and remount whilst moving. Incredible. Can we get the coffees in sight? For more GCN cyclocross videos, click on me.